Good evening, everyone. Kate Bora here. Excited to be here. Monday, spring, super. What a time of year, huh? In Accelerate, we've just talked about stepping it up in spring. So just waiting for Fiona to join me. When she comes up, yeah. So step it up in spring. Sorry, guys, I've got to put my little hand over the thing. Here she comes. Let me just add her. Miss Fiona. Well, camera's working so much better. Here you are.
Oh, here we are. And we're next to each other, even better.
Well, we did a Facebook Live last week and Fiona was like sitting on my head. It was quite peculiar, wasn't it? To go and look at the, yeah, it's kind of like good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, it was like I was little sort of guardian angel talking in your ear or something.
I know. It was quite weird. So welcome, second Facebook Live. Excited to be here. This week, we thought we've had a few questions come through from viewers, so I thought we'd just touch base a little bit around that, and then we thought we'd talk a little bit more about the wheel. And I'll get a picture. You won't be able to see it very well, but we'll post it on the page a little bit later so you can see what sort of we call them the 10 building blocks of core confidence. But before we dive into that, Fiona, do you want to just start a little bit around the context of the wheel and how that came about and the distinction between the internal versus external aspects or building blocks of core confidence?
Yes, I think it was really in the workshops, Kate, when we were first playing and with this notion and we were, facilitating with women and we were finding out, what's going on here. And it sort of became evident as we looked at what was traditionally done in the world of, confidence training or executive presence or leadership work. There was a lot of things that what we realized as we started to map them out were quite externally focused. So they were all about how I would see myself, I would be perceived externally in the environment, all really valuable, all useful, all important. But as we started to delve a bit deeper, and when we did some of the, more in-depth processes with people, we started to really touch on these deeper layer. And this sort of, and we got the sense that actually this idea of core confidence relied on really good connection with those internal aspects of confidence. And that's how we developed the wheel. So recognizing that everything's important, but if we only focus on the external, which has been the traditional way of looking at it, something can happen and all of a sudden we'll lose all sense of confidence and sense of ourselves because we're not in really good connection with those internal facets. So it was really in the work itself that we found or came across what we felt were those 5 important internal facets of core confidence.
Yeah, and it was that distinction of, the external aspects are important and they're very much the doing, and the internal was almost that sense of being. And I think, as we had more conversations around this, okay, well, how do we, how do we build confidence? How do we reconnect with our core confidence? How do we, there's some traditional thinking that's out there, and, 2 of the ones that most of us rely upon and probably have been proven around are our success formula, which is, work hard and know your stuff. If you, to a degree, that's how we're raised, work hard, study hard, get a job, get a good job, keep working hard, put more hours in, study, learn, know your subject matter expertise. And certainly if I think about when people talk to me about confidence and presentation skills, often, one of the main orientations is really get confident and comfortable with your subject matter, because if you're comfortable with the subject matter, you're less likely to be rattled if you get asked a question because you know the answer. Now, that doesn't always hold true, because if you are in, if you do get rattled and you go into fight or flight, all of a sudden the brain shuts down and, the answer that's in there doesn't come out so well. So, it was really about how do we move beyond some of these old traditional aspects, which are still important. It's important to work hard. It's important to know your subject matter expertise, but, really that there was more than just that. And I don't know that you're going to be able to see it particularly well, but you can see that that's the, and I think it comes up in reverse, so it's not super helpful. But that's the core confidence wheel. We'll post the image after the live session for anyone who hasn't necessarily seen that. But the 10 aspects of, or the 10 building blocks to core confidence is very much the bulk of the book. And really, it's we kind of say, and I'll get you to add to this, Bea, we say to people, when you look at the wheel, really just connect in where you feel like it would be the most beneficial place to start. So it's not necessary that you need to master all of these 10 aspects of the building blocks of confidence. And that's not the message. It's very much around, there'll be a few that you probably naturally have nailed, or probably orientate in your background of your formula for success. And it's actually perhaps looking at some of the ones that maybe we're not so familiar with, and actually looking at those and working through the chapters and the activities, most importantly in the chapters, to start to I guess, reconnect, or what we talk a lot around, which is staircase your way to core confidence.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting that when we asked people about confidence, or when we're in a workshop and we asked them to talk about, you know, what would it be? What do you think it would be? If they hadn't been exposed to the model and to the way we thought about things, they would instantly gravitate and sort of hold on to those traditional things and think, well, if I just know enough, if I could just get more and more knowledge in my subject, if I just, you know, if I worked a bit harder, if I did more networking, you know, they had all these kind of ideas in their head, which of course we would have been exposed to because that's kind of what we're taught. And we were really careful not to say that's not important, but we knew that wasn't enough on its own. And it was by combining the internal and the external that we get to that, you know, really deep core confidence that's sustainable, even when you get, you know, thrown, even when you get asked that curveball question, even when you suddenly find that you're out of your depth, you don't lose all sense of yourself in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the 5 external building blocks of confidence. The first one is get clear. And I think for me, this is one of my, I mean, we love them all, right? But I think this is really, you know, my experience of coaching women for a number of years now, is that the clearer you are about what's important to you, the more likely you are to challenge the status quo. There was a great article we both read that Wendy posted this morning. Faye, I think you read it as well, talking about the incredible challenges for, you know, working parents and particularly working women. And I was really reflecting on that, and I caught up with a friend of mine this afternoon who is a single mum and has been a single mum pretty much from the beginning, but actually runs her own business. And I was reflecting when I was reading that article around how I didn't necessarily see the same challenges. And, you know, I guess when you do run your own business or consulting, you do have so much more flexibility, and a lot of the traditional frictions that sit within, you know, an 8:30 to 5:30 or whatever traditional model looks like. But I was really struck, and this particular friend of ours who posted it was very much, I guess, a change maker early on. She challenged the status quo around, you know, having young children, you know, taking that young children into the office and, you know, basically being a full-time mum and working but full-time as well, and making it work. But really, the importance there around get clear about what's important to you. The clearer you are, the more likely it is you're going to have to challenge the status quo. And I think there's a piece that sits underneath that about not being liked or not being accepted by everybody. And I think that's the piece that really came strongly up in this article, is there's so much friction around, and judgment around, whether you're doing things the right way. And to do it differently, I guess, implies that it's the wrong way. And we have to kind of almost be okay that there will be judgment, and how do you just be okay with that? So I think clarity around what's important to you really is such a strong foundation to give you the courage to challenge the status quo, to give you the courage to say no to things that you that's not important. And you know, work with my clients shows me that we're not good at that. We constantly keep seeking more and more, and that's often the challenge, is because I'm trying to do so much, I actually get nothing done. So I think there's a few, you know, really key important pieces around this clarity, both around what's important to you in context of career and also more broadly in life. Have you got anything you want to add on that one?
No, I think, I mean, as you've said, this piece around the more clarity we have, the more empowered we feel to make choices consistent with that clarity. And therefore, we can drop a little bit of the self-judgment or I'm not getting this done, I'm not getting that done. Actually, I made a choice and it means I won't be able to do that. And I'm choosing to do this. And I think that's a really freeing sense as well. It sort of means we're not as pressured to try and do everything, which is simply not possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the second one, set goals and take action. I think that's a natural follow-on from the clarity piece.
Yeah.
Once you're clear about what's important to you, what you want, actually being explicit about what specifically you do want to achieve. Again, people, this is not done well. When you look at the research around goal setting, when you look at the research around life by design versus life by default, a lot of people are just kind of, moving from moment to moment. I was listening to an Audible, so sort of on the way home, talking about this whole concept of thinking big and, are you creating your life versus are you just living in it moment for moment, and just the orientation around it, because there was a piece in this particular book around confidence that I wanted to listen into. But I think that, explicit piece to sit there, and this, I first started doing this many years ago now, probably 13 years ago, where I started personal development, and there was a really significant mindset shift for me around, oh wow, actually, if I set goals around what I want more broadly in life, career was just one aspect. It was sort of, where do I want to be living? What does my home life look like? What does my mind body routine look like? All those sorts of things around how am I, what are my holidays? What are my hobbies? All these sorts of things start to kind of, what am I learning? All those sorts of things. When I actually start to explicitly, and the language I use now is get in the driver's seat, get clear about what I want, set some direction, and then get in the driver's seat and make it happen. And I think, there's a really important piece here around action that ties into fear. That the more that I'm in action, either action moving me towards something or action that gives me information that still moves me forward, either way, so, whether there's a great outcome or no outcome or not a great outcome, all of that gives me good information. So there's certainly a piece in the set goals and take action that is really important. And I think it's a piece that perhaps is a little bit under leveraged.
Yes, I think knowing what you want and being clear about that and being prepared to say that both to yourself but also to significant other people in your life. There's some sort of piece of accountability around when we share our goals with others, when we start to speak them out loud, they sort of take on a more tangible sense, and we feel as though we can go for them. And we do know this, it comes back to this, the act of confidence comes before the feeling of it. The action is so important. We just can't stress or emphasize enough. And as Kate says, it doesn't matter what the outcome of the action is so much. Just taking the action itself is the next step. And it will inevitably lead to another step. And it may be good, bad, or different. It doesn't really matter because you'll get to choose again. I think that's one of the big things that people also underestimate, is that a choice is not necessarily a choice forever. It's simply what I choose right now. And the next moment, actually, I get another choice. But certainly in the next hour or week or day, I get to choose again. So we can keep taking actions all the way through, and we're not stuck with an action just because we've taken it.
And so easy, again, coaching someone this afternoon, so easy to get stuck in the story of what might be and, hypothesize, months or, many moves ahead. And, this afternoon, I just kind of really orientated around, number one, get some good information. So, make some decisions on good information, on real information, not assumed information or or hypotheses. And then at some point you have to make a decision and you have to move forward. And to your point, brilliant. You do get to, it's not the end of the world. There will be another choice, and all information is good information. So I think for me, those two are, particularly if we think about this external orientation or building blocks of core confidence, they really are incredibly powerful. I think the next two that we mentioned at the beginning was around this whole concept of work hard and know your stuff. In the book, we talk about, work hard strategically. So I think one of the challenges is that workplaces, I've got a lot of people who I'm talking with, clients and potential clients, who are in really challenging work dynamics, both culturally and, working incredibly hard. And, it's that ability to be clear about what's most valuable, because the reality is there's always going to be more to do these days. You never get to the end of the to-do list. Rarely do you get to the end of a day and feel like you've nailed everything you wanted to at the beginning, and you don't have another 5 things on the to-do list that weren't on there earlier in the day. So I think there's a skill that we actually really need to learn around focus and execution. But what is it that I need to do that's most important?
Yeah, I think this work hard strategically is the operative word here. It's so important to be conscious of what you're doing. So it's so easy to just work hard, and that not to actually be producing results and not necessarily to be recognized. So again, the clarity piece, if you're clear about what you need to achieve and what you want, but you're also clear about what matters to your team and to your organization, and you're aligned with that. And then you are working hard strategically because what you're doing is aligned with what the organization is trying to achieve. And from a career point of view, that's why you're there. You're there to enable the organization to achieve good things, to obviously, have personal and professional development yourself and to grow in your work life, and to be conscious that just doing stuff does not always get you the outcomes you're looking for. So, we're very clear that we want to encourage you to work hard, but do it strategically for yourself and for your team and organization.
Yeah, and it's not, it's busy doing the right things, not just busy. And it can be really, that's where coaching is so incredibly valuable, because it pulls you out of the detail, brings you up to be able to look and go, okay, what's most important? A lot of clients I'm working with at the moment who, are either new to roles, and so are kind of staring down the pipeline of huge to-do lists, like lots to do, lots of stuff that is within the new role that they've just been promoted to, lots that they're doing that's not even within the role but needs to get done. And so, that ability to be able to chunk up and kind of go, what's most important right now? What's then next important and can wait for 30 days? What could wait for 60 days? And being able to look at the specifics. And often that the ability to do that means that we have to have some really good conversations, often with some senior stakeholders, which helps us make really good decisions. But I think this assumption that I can do everything, and our need to perhaps prove our value and worth historically through that I can do, I can do everything, I can do it all brilliantly, there won't be any mistakes, and it'll all happen now twice as fast than it used to, because that's what's expected, and the rate of information exchange and flow means that that's possible. So, we don't operate, it's a new way of working, and it's a new environment. And I think I see a lot of people really caught up in expecting of themselves what was possible 10 years ago, but really is fundamentally not possible these days.
Yeah, it is about being very discerning about what has the most impact. And as you said, Kate, whether it's an external coach or colleagues or peers, or it's senior people in your organization, checking in, I've got literally, 20 things that need to be done, and they need to be done incredibly urgently. From a discernment point of view, what's going to have the most impact? What's going to make the most difference to the organization, to my team, to myself? What's going to get us further along the line, and what are those critical pieces, as opposed to the, well, it'd be great to do it, but I can't do it right now.
Yeah. And ultimately, things are going to slip through the cracks, and, everything's not going to get done. That doesn't feel good. You and I know that all the time. Like, we've kind of just surrendered to the fact that everything, as much as we would love for everything to happen like clockwork, the reality is, between life and our goals and priorities, that everything's not going to happen in perfect time frame, and we have to be okay with that. And I think, that doesn't necessarily feel good, but the more that we can kind of surrender to it and just be really clear about, what's most important, and that those things are moving forward, and also making a good decision. And we've done this, you know, in the last week. Lots on our plate, things we wanted to get done. We were planning a book tour for September. And, you know, we kind of just looked at each other last week and went, that's not going to happen. There's no way that we're going to be able to, you know, execute that across the 3 states we wanted to go to. And we just made a decision to kind of shelve that and go, okay, cool, it's not going to happen. You know, did we want to do it? Absolutely. But in its current form, in the way we were talking about it, wasn't going to be possible. And I think, you know, it's a really good example of really living, you know, you work hard and do it strategically.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, we might wrap it there, Fee. We've still got know your stuff and build relationships, 2 favorites, but we might hold that for next week and talk about those, which is, you know, a beautiful segue into one of, I guess, our favorite aspects of the internal core confidence, which is asking for help. And I think, you know, it's a powerful aspect of core confidence. It's one that a lot of us really struggle with. And I really hope that one of the outcomes of this book is that, you know, we support and facilitate more women to reach out and ask for help, and that through doing that, they can achieve both, you know, their career and life goals, and really, you know, live life in a little bit more of a smoother way than perhaps what we saw in the article we both read this morning.
Yes, yeah, I think this, you know, there is so much potential here, and if we, in some little way, were fostering a culture of supporting each other and enabling and, you know, actually being comfortable with reaching out and asking others, and also hearing that request and acting on it, that would be such a wonderful thing to have contributed to. So definitely excited to talk about those next week.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, either live or later on over the course of the week. Please, if you've got your questions around core confidence or anything we've shared today, please shoot us a message, and we'd love to answer those in the weeks ahead. So thanks so much. And coreconfidence.com.au. If you don't have a copy of the book and would love one, jump over to the website. You can grab it there, and we'll make sure we share a copy of the Core Confidence in the post below. See you later, guys. Thanks, Fee.
Okay. See you next week. Bye, Kate.